Well, another billionaire made headlines today. George Soros is still very much with us, but he is handing over control of his investment and philanthropic empire to his son, Alexander. Mr. Soros' $25 billion business holdings include the non-profit Open Society Foundations, which funnels around $1.5 billion a year to human rights and pro-democracy causes. George Soros is 92 years old and has often been targeted by right-wing autocrats and governments for his backing of liberal causes. His son says he's more of a politician than his father and has pledged to broaden the foundation's priorities to include voting and abortion rights, as well as gender equality. Let's get more then on the Soros legacy and what this change at the top is likely to mean. We can bring in journalist and author Emily Tamkin. Welcome to DW. She's author of The Influence of Soros, which looks at his life and how he became a favourite target of the right. The most recent book, Bad Jews, looks at the history of Jewish American politics and identities and joins us from the Austrian capital, Vienna. Welcome again. Let's start with this image that he has. Whenever we hear his name, besides today, usually it's in the mouth of an East European leader who is condemning him for being this, that and the other. Why is he such a bogeyman for right-wing autocrats and governments?
Yeah. East European or back home in the United States from our right-wing figures. I first want to be very clear that I'm speaking here about conspiracy theories and smears, not about criticism, which much of which can be fair. But I sort of see there as being two reasons for which conspiracy theories about Soros are so popular. The first is that, look, I once had someone in Slovakia say to me, you could not imagine a more perfect stereotypical cartoon villain just because of his biography, because he is from Hungary, which both here and back home has certain connotations, because he lives in New York, he's in finance, he's Jewish, all of these different, sort of characteristics onto which people can project their own stereotypes. When you hear it, all these other connotations come up. And the second thing is that his philosophy, his Open Society Foundations, it's about building a society in which all of us have an equal or equitable chance to participate. And it's not based on ethnicity or religion or race. And that is something that I think is directly counter to the vision that many of those attacking him would like to see enacted.
Right. And so what do we know then about his son, who is now going to take over the family business? So who is he, and why did his dad change his mind about handing the business over to him?
Yeah, I think it's been clear for not quite a decade, but for several years now that Alex Soros, a son from his second marriage, is sort of the heir apparent to the philanthropic empire, if you like. He's 37 years old. He, is in New York. I think it's important to remember that he has a very different biography from his father, right? George Soros became who he is by surviving Nazi occupation of Hungary and getting out of Hungary under socialist control and really, being introduced to this philosophy of Karl Popper at University College London and building making his own fortune and building this, building this thing. And his son is the product of, so he's the product of that world and that time, and his son is the product of the person who built all of that. So I think that they're quite different people. They had extremely different biographies, obviously. But we also know that Alex Soros is, much like his father, center-left, liberal-minded. I don't think that, of course, he's a different person, but I think we should expect continuity as well as change. He's sort of speaks of the same liberal ethos that his dad does.
And George Soros has been a massive financial donor to the US Democratic Party. Will this change at the top have any significance in terms of backing for candidates in next year's presidential election?
I think, his son said in this interview in the Wall Street Journal that he's even more political than his father, which we should say that, it's not that George Soros hasn't been politically involved. Since 2004 in the United States, he's been a major donor, not only to campaigns and candidates, but also to causes. One that gets a lot of attention back home is progressive district attorney candidates, because he's interested in criminal justice reform. So I think we should expect that to continue. The focus of exactly which causes the political wing gives to might change slightly, but no, I don't think that we'll see a retreat from that. He has said, and they sort of have both said, and others in that orbit have said that it would be wonderful if big money weren't in politics, which is one criticism that people have of Soros and of billionaire philanthropists more generally, or billionaire donors more generally. But so long as there is money in politics, they feel that the liberal side should be giving as well.
Good talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us and outlining that so clearly. Journalist and author Emily Tamkin.
Thank you for having me.